On this edition of Reels Talk with Amanda and Omar, we're going to be doing our review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so stay tuned.
Welcome back, everybody. So, just in case you have not seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, there is going to be talk of spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it yet, time to tune out now.
Yes.
Like most of our listeners.
Let's talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, written by the Phil Lord and produced by Chris Miller. Those guys from
Is that his full name? The Phil Lord?
The Phil Lord of the Lego movie fame. And, of course, based on the character created by Brian Michael Bendis, your favorite guy.
He's okay.
And Sarah Pacelli.
No, she's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's jump in and talk about the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
So why don't you take that?
First of all, if any of you have watched our Old Reader, New Reader, you know that we recently just did Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales collection.
Yep.
At first, we weren't sure if that was really going to be necessary for this movie because obviously it's Spider-Verse. We weren't really quite sure how much of Miles Morales' origin story we were going to get. And actually, I was very happy we did because this film does center around his origin story heavily. And it does take a lot of elements from Bendis' original run in his origin story for Miles Morales.
Absolutely. More so than anything from Spider-Verse, yes. Other than characters that show up from different dimensions.
Yes.
They took a lot of liberties with the character, I think. Not making it exactly like his comic book counterpart. But nobody really expects that from comic book movies.
You should not at this point.
And I agree. I think they made it better.
Yes.
Like, I like the way that he got his powers, how the ultimate, well, let's just call it the ultimate Spider-Man was still alive. Peter Parker was still alive, and he was there when he died at the hands of Kingpin.
And in case you guys didn't know, if you haven't looked at IMDb or saw any interviews, the ultimate Spider-Man in this one is actually played by Chris Pine.
Yeah.
One of the Hollywood Chris's. He's finally made his way into a Marvel movie.
So he played Ultimate Peter Parker, who ends up dying,
yep.
And he kind of sets this kid on his way, on his mission in this movie to become the next Spider-Man, because Miles gets bit by a radioactive spider.
Number 42.
Was it? Did it show number 42?
I think it did, yes. He didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure it had.
I know they had hinted. It's a big
something.
deal in the comic books
Yeah.
that the spider was an Oscorp spider experiment.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it was just like, oh, we get it. He got bit by a radioactive spider. We've seen this origin before. We don't need any detail information.
No, we
so
don't.
I thought that was really cool the way that was handled.
Mm-hmm. It was. That's not the focus point.
That's how he starts getting. And I love how they start showing his spider powers. That scene in the school cracked me up. Like, why are the thoughts being so loud? And you're getting, you're getting comic book thought bubbles and comic book speech bubbles.
And that's where it takes a big
and
turn.
Texas.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's
because
great.
You see it in the beginning when so the other Spider-Man that comes into play later on is Jake Johnson's version. He's from New Girl. He plays this worn out, middle-aged, janky Peter Parker from what I would assume is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man universe, since his story that he tells looks a lot like the Tobey Maguire story.
Did they ever state that he came from 616?
No, they never did. We don't know,
okay.
But we're just...
it was pretty interesting.
Those are just little Easter eggs.
So yeah, these... through a series of events, the Kingpin, who's behind these dimensional portals because he wants to bring Vanessa and his child back from the dead because he feels responsible for having them killed. Actually, he doesn't feel responsible. He blames Spider-Man. So he's digging with the help of Dr. Go ahead.
Oh, Dr. Olivia Octavius, which is an original character, has not been shown before.
Yeah, I've never seen a female Doc Ock.
But it's cool to see her gender bend.
I'll take it back. I've seen a female Doc Ock, but not
like
one that's supposed to be Doc Ock from this universe. What was really cool about her is she was a huge surprise to me because...
Did not expect her at all.
In the trailer, she was digitally removed.
Yes.
Like, there are scenes when they're flipping back and forth with the desktop. They're being chased by Doc Ock. That was awesome.
She was a complete surprise.
And I really liked her character. I love the way that her arms looked. Yes. They were amazing. I don't know. Visually, they looked really cool. So you have characters like Kingpin, and you have Tombstone, you have Doc Ock, and then you have the Prowler, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, the whole premise of the movie is that Kingpin wants to bring his wife and son back, who are deceased in this universe, from another universe, and he doesn't care what universe he taps.
He just wants them back.
So that's how all these spider characters show up.
Because when the collider goes off, Spider-Man and Green Goblin are in a fray, and I think it takes some of his particles or his DNA, and that's how they get these Spider-Men into this.
Yes,
into
that's
Miles
exactly.
Morales's.
So you get characters like Spider-Ham, Spider-Gwen, who goes by Spider-Woman in her universe.
Yes.
And you get Spider-Man Noir from 1933, who was voiced by Nick Cage. And we'll talk about that when we talk about characters. And then you get Penny Parker.
Yes, exactly. So, basically, we see all
glitching.
They're glitching because, right, they're not supposed to be in this dimension. And their cells are degenerating and everything like that. And so they have to go back. But the problem is, they also need to make sure the collider's destroyed. So now it becomes this mission. So you have Miles, who's only pretty much been a Spider-Man for 2 or 3 days, and he has to step up and, help these guys try to turn this collider off, and someone needs to stay behind, and it's a whole big thing to turn it off and make sure it gets destroyed as everyone else goes back to their universes.
Now, this is one of my favorite things about this movie, is that the mom is Puerto Rican and the father is an African American. And what I love about this is that she speaks to him in the same way that I speak to my kids, which is in Spanish, right? Yeah. And there is no translation for that. And I thought that was really cool, because a lot of the times when you see things like this in movies, they feel really forced, or there's Spanish to English subtitles at the bottom.
Yeah.
But this is his world. So I feel more in touch with the character when it's not translated. And I thought that was a really cool way of doing it.
Yes.
When she's saying things like mi vida and things like that. It's just a part of his world. It's a part of his culture. I'm not one of these guys that's big on representation and things like that. I know people are. But I thought that was really cool. And it was the first time that I'd seen it in a movie where they use it like that. And it's nice...
was natural.
Yeah, yes. It's a nice change from everything else I had seen before.
And it was good to see him interact back with her like that. He said, like, hasta luego. Like, it was just really awesome to see the way they created these characters, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And, that was one of the big highlights of this film, I think.
So the change is, like, his mom is a nurse, and his dad is a police officer, and his uncle... if you've read, it's just like the Ultimate Universe. He is the Prowler.
Yes.
Who is actually kind of scary in this movie.
Yes.
I really like the way that he looked and the way that when he's about to use his power-ups and from his armor. I like the sounds that they made because it's almost like, well, we'll talk about the soundtrack a little bit later, but it's almost like one of those soundtrack songs.
Yeah.
He's not as evil like he is in the Ultimate comics, but
and I prefer that
there's some redeemable qualities to him.
Yeah, there's some redeemable qualities, and I think that is brought out by the actor who plays him, which is Mahershala Ali.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that guy knows nuance. I mean, he knows how to play those nuances very well. Scorpion shows up too.
A Spanish Scorpion.
A Spanish Scorpion.
Now, the way that was pretty cool how that was handled, because his Spanish is translated through comic book word bubbles.
Yeah, word bubbles, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool how they handled that. Mm-hmm. Stylistically, it looked awesome. So, in which we'll talk about later. But, so they come, they go and go to the Spider-Man headquarters because
Peter Parker's, or Ultimate Spider-Man's headquarters, which is very up to date.
It's like a shed.
It's like a
shed. It's like a bat cave. It's a spider with lots of Easter eggs, which like the spider buggy and all the different kinds of armor from the Spider-Man.
You see the PS4 one.
Yeah.
You see, I think the Iron Spider's in there too.
Iron Spider's in there. The couple of the costumes from Dan Slott's run. The Fantastic Four costumes in there. Lots of little Easter eggs. It's just fun to keep looking, and that's kind of where the Spider Clan meet to devise a plan so they can go and take out this machine and go back to their regular universe.
Yes. But at the same time, you have Miles who's struggling.
Yeah.
Because he's not quite sure how to handle his powers, and it's only been a couple of days, and he still has the same powers we saw in the comics too. He has the invisibility, the venom blast.
Yes.
So he still has all of those.
He's learning how to use them. I mean, it's been 2 days, so they were like, man, you're going to have to sit this one out. And you can't come and join us. He was like, nope, I go and take a leap. I'm going to try to do this. And he tries to join them, and he is followed by his uncle, the Prowler. And this is where things are a little bit different.
Yes.
Because in the comic books, he feels responsible for killing the Prowler, but it turns out that it was the Tinker.
The suit malfunctioned.
Screwing up the suit. In this, the Prowler's choking Miles on a rooftop, and then Miles takes his mask off and he realizes this is his nephew, and he stops. We don't really know what he was going to do next because he ends up getting shot by the Kingpin. So the Kingpin kills him. Now he's kneeling there with his dead uncle as his father comes to this alley and he sees him there. And of course, we all know that his father's going to blame Spider-Man for killing him. So all the cops are now out for Spider-Man.
Yep.
And he still doesn't feel like he's part of this other gang that wants to go and destroy this machine. But he takes it upon himself to do it. So we didn't talk about the fact that he's a graffiti artist, right?
Which I thought was a great change as well.
It was awesome because that was such a unique way to go into that Spider-Man cave, Spider Cave, call it whatever you want to, and pick out a costume because Aunt May was waiting for him.
And I was,
and she's
Aunt
like,
May is
she was like,
a
Lily
fantastic
Tomlin,
Lily
right?
Tomlin, and what a
Kills
great
it.
casting. Awesome casting.
She was a badass Aunt May. But what I was gonna say is that I thought it was amazing, no pun intended, how they took his graffiti and he was like, I'm gonna choose this Spider-Man suit.
Yep.
And he spray paints it and draws his own logo. And even though it's identical to the Spider-Man suit in the Ultimate Universe, it's unique to the movie because it looks like it's graffiti art, but it looks so good. Awesome. So he goes and, of course, saves the day. Because, I mean, that's practically the story. It saves the day, and everybody gets to go back to their own dimension. Penny and Spider-Gwen. He kind of has a thing for Spider-Gwen. Yes. Peter Parker gives him a few words before he ends up leaving and trying to rekindle his relationship with Mary Jane. Mm-hmm. And then Miles gives this beautiful speech at the end how everybody can wear the mask, and I thought that was really touching.
Exactly.
So that's the plot of the movie.
One of the big highlights, I think, for me in this film was just the character work, especially with the different Spider-Men that you get. Obviously, you get two different versions of Peter Parker, which I wasn't aware we were going to get at all.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me.
That was a surprise. Was not expecting to see the Chris Pine character, which is our younger, more determined.
Yeah, he's 26
Spider-Man.
at that point.
So he's 26 years old. He's the one we would expect. Then we get Jake Johnson's, which comes from.
And he's in his late 30s.
Yes, and there's a lot of stuff that happens with him. He's middle-aged. Him and MJ got married. They got divorced.
He buried Aunt May.
He's gotten kind of chubby, and that's a joke that's made throughout the film, which is hilarious. Because we've all been there, middle-aged, it happens, and it's just...
Not all of us, but go ahead.
Maybe not Omar, but the rest of us can relate to that. And it's really interesting to see that character, and at first, when I saw the casting for it as Jake Johnson, I wasn't entirely on board.
I really liked Gwen. And who did her voice?
Haley Steinfeld, which we're going to see her also in Bumblebees. True Grit, Pitch Perfect series.
The Pitch Perfect series. That's exactly what I was going to say.
She's also a singer who's made some money doing that too.
Cool. Miles killed it. His whole family was great. Who did the voice of...
Shameik Moore from The Get Down, which I loved it, and I was really upset that Netflix had killed it off after one season.
I really like that guy too. He's a good actor.
He is a good actor.
Nailed it, man. And his dad, who did his dad's voice?
Brian Tyree Henry. And
what have I seen him in?
The only thing I've ever seen him in that I recognize is he was in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. He's in Atlanta. He plays one of Donald Glover's friends in the TV show.
Okay.
And which is awesome to see him, voicing a character in this, considering Donald Glover's connection to the whole Spider-Man universe in a way. Not only did he have his own cameo in Homecoming as Aaron Davis, which is, their take on the Prowler. Mm-hmm. According to Brian Michael Bendis, Donald Glover was also the inspiration behind Miles Morales.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Huh. So it's cool to see a lot of that. And I guess there's also, if you guys watch the movie in Uncle Aaron's apartment, when he first comes in, there's an episode of Community playing where Donald Glover has the Spider-Man suit on.
Oh, I did not notice that at all.
And I kind of found that out later, and I was like, I have to go back and watch that.
I was looking for Easter eggs, and I found a lot, like Bendis and Pichelli's name were everywhere. Eric Larson's artwork, Mark Bagley's artwork.
I think there was a Romita really Ramen cool. for, is it John Romita?
John Romita.
Yeah.
Senior.
There was one of those. Yes.
Romita Jr. did too. But, okay, so let's go back to the character. Who was the mom's voice actor? Because I really liked her too.
That was Luna Lauren Velez.
Okay, what?
And the only thing I remember her is she is Detective Diaz in Dexter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember her from.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's who played his mother. And then you have, of course, your Spider-Man. So we were trying to figure out until we looked it up who was playing Spider-Ham, and that is John Mulaney.
The comedian?
The SNL writer, and perfect...
I thought he did a good job.
Perfect voice for Spider-Ham. It was awesome.
Who did... Now, we all know that
Nick Cage did Spider-Man Noir, and I
who
thought
was one
great.
of my favorite parts of the movie.
Great part.
I love how old school he sounds.
I love his introduction where he talks about how... They're like, how is there wind? We're in a basement. And he's like, the wind, and it smells like rain, and it's just...
I like their origins and how sad his origin is. And
it's so depressing.
And the lack of color in his world when he's playing with the Rubik's Cube.
He can't figure it out.
And he's like, I'm taking this back with me right before he jumps back to his dimension. I thought he was so awesome in this role. Very
surprising.
Unique. I really thought, I was mad that they didn't use either Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire to do the voice of Spider-Man. Yeah. But, I get it. Now, whose voice was in this movie and who I will really miss and almost made me teary-eyed was with Stan Lee's cameo.
And it was a perfect cameo, too. It's a very poignant moment.
It's after Ultimate Spider-Man dies.
After Ultimate Spider-Man dies, there's a huge funeral that they're having for him, or a memorial service, and Miles goes to buy a costume, a Spider-Man costume. And he goes to buy it, and Stan Lee is the actual store owner. And he goes through this kind of small monologue about how you'll know, like, you know, no one ever knows when they're ready, but, you know, he knows you're meant for this.
The part that almost made me tear up, though, was when he said, I'm going to miss that guy.
Yes.
Oh, man. I almost lost it in the movie because it's Stan Lee, and that's his favorite character, and it's the character he created.
He loved Spider-Man.
I also liked a lot of the villains. Kingpin's voice.
Liev Schreiber.
Okay, he was the one that I'm like, I don't know about this, but then it kind of grew on me. He didn't sound like a big threatening force, is what I'm used to the Kingpin sounding like. Yeah. Either in the animated series, the video games, or even the latest Daredevil show. He kind of sounded like a thug in this, like. And then Tombstone, I don't think he even talked, did he?
No, I don't think he, not
Other
much.
than grunting?
Yeah.
So it was interesting to have him in there.
Yeah, and Doc Ock was played by Kathryn Hahn.
Right.
She was in Bad Moms.
She was awesome.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or any romantic comedy, if you ever watch them. I do. I don't know if Omar does.
Nope.
But she's been in a lot of those as that, like, the best friend.
She was great. She was great as Doc Ock.
She took that role, and she just relished it. She just made it. She's like,
and
I'm gonna have fun with this.
I think the whole cast seemed to have fun with it. I think they did. They took their roles seriously, but also didn't forget to have fun. And I think that's what, like, seriously, I was laughing, and it was a fun movie. Maybe that's it was the best way to describe it.
All right, so let's talk now about the style, the art of the movie, because it's an animation. It's a lot different than anything we've seen this year. And as such, it makes it unique, and it looks visually pleasing on screen to me. So it has a little bit. It's obviously the computer animated, but it has that hand drawn, like, almost comic book effect overlaid to a lot of the stuff, right?
I would absolutely say comic book effect, even in the way that the colors are done.
Yes,
with the dotted,
very colorful.
The dotted colors from the comic books. Mm-hmm. The way they move is very choppy.
Yes.
And I don't mean choppy like
not
bad because you get used to it. At first you're like, because I remember seeing the previews, I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
It's so weird to describe a movie like this because it's choppy, but it's also very fluid in the way that it moves. The fight scenes were really awesome.
And I loved how they do the fight scenes, and they'll interlay a fight scene with a stop, like they'll do a cut, like a panels, like 3 panels of action, just like it would be in a comic book. So it was awesome to see the fight going on, but then they would stop it to do this panel effect, and it was done so flawlessly to me that it enhanced the fight scenes in the movie.
You can follow. But I also love the fact that they use the campy Batman.
Yeah.
Pows and booms and like sound effects.
And
it never came off as cheesy.
The fight scene at the end, I thought, just all the colors and the way they did when the dimensional shifts or whatever affects his dimension, the changeover, I really enjoyed that part.
But the one that made my jaw drop is where he decides to become Spider-Man and take that leap. And he jumps off that building head first.
Yes.
And I was just like, this is gorgeous. Visually gorgeous. Storytelling gorgeous. It was amazing.
And all the stuff they do, like, okay, so there's a part in the scene where Miles trying to talk to Jake Johnson's Peter Parker. That's what I'm going to call him from now on. And they're walking sideways on the buildings and watching them do that. You don't see that in the Spider-Man.
You see that in Batman 60s.
Yeah, but
gives the turning of the camera.
Yeah, but it was awesome because you don't
great.
see that in our live action stuff. Because there's only so much our stunt guys can do, and even so much Tom Holland can do.
Only so much CG will make you disbelief for a while,
and that's
right?
the problem. But see, with this, you don't have to worry about that.
Right, and
that's
I think
what makes it amazing.
That's why I loved it, because you could do whatever you wanted. I will say the only thing that I had a problem with, I never got used to it, was when the scenes in the background would go out of focus.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed it as well.
I'm sure
I kept
some people would have
problems. So I didn't know
because they want me to focus on the main character, right?
And what's going on at hand,
and what's going on in the front,
the background.
But I can't help to keep looking in the back too, because it's almost off-putting.
Yes, it was to me. I said, is there a reason for that? And I don't know if it's just because maybe that's how it would be, perhaps in a comic.
Well, that's the way it would be. Yeah. Well, that's the way it would be in a movie.
Yeah,
maybe.
Of course.
In a CG movie or in a real life movie, you want to put the focus on the character that's up front. Everything else in the back gets blurred out. But it's so weird because in this, it kind of worked against them because everything that blurred out stood out more than the character that up in the front.
I feel that.
that was my only thing that I never really got used to. Even towards the end, I'm like, I wish I had done this a different way. But that's it. That's actually the only gripe I have about this movie. I know I hate on a lot of the stuff we talk about, but that's the only thing I could say bad about this movie.
But there's one other thing that we should probably talk about too that was, I think both of us agree, is absolutely phenomenal, and that is the music
soundtrack.
Guys,
oh my god!
I think I put this on my Instagram, but if y'all don't go out and buy this soundtrack, stream it. I don't care what you do. You need to do it. This soundtrack is what made this film, like, it helped make the film what it is. Yeah. Everyone, like Post Malone, you got Nicki Minaj, I mean, you got Vince Staple, you have all these amazing...
you got Man in Motion from St. Elmo's Fire.
Yes, which was at a great little 80s throwback montage.
Oh, I love that
music.
song. That's in my running track as it was anyway, so it's nice to see it in here.
Yes.
But what I mentioned earlier, the Prowler... The sound effects that they used on the Prowler as he moves, it seemed like a mix of like What's Up Danger.
Yep.
And I can't remember the other Post Malone. There was a Post Malone song that they used in that movie, but it was like whoever did the sound effects for the movie took those sound mixes from that music and used it to make him move. And I was like, man, that is such a slick way.
Great effect. Yeah, it was a great soundtrack, and the amazing thing is we don't have a lot of soundtracks anymore. I mean, the Black Panther soundtrack was also amazing. If anyone has ever listened to that too, so
yes, it is.
Movies don't do this anymore.
Well, I mean, we have scores, right?
Yes,
like we have the Avengers score by Silvestri. We have Danny Elfman still doing Justice League. Danny Elfman did the original Spider-Man, still beautiful. But I hated the music in the original Spider-Man movie, maybe because. Nickelback and what's her name? Macy Gray. Oh, man.
I prefer the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack because it at least had Maroon 5, Yellow Card, Breaking Benjamin, Train. But
oh man, what was so good though was the Prowler, right? I guess he's my age because I'm like, man, I was listening to the same beats when I was in high school. All the songs that he was listening to is all these old school Biggie and Tupac themes, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's because he's older. That's why.
He is supposed to be.
Oh, well. I do want to mention one Easter egg that I really, really enjoyed. So, like I said, there's a lot of Bendis and Pacelli and Bagley artwork and Eric Larson from comic book pages.
Yeah.
And then they made their own comic book pages. But the Easter egg at the very end, the post-credit, was so unexpected because
amazing.
As a fan of Spider-Man 2099 Miguel, I wasn't expecting him to make it into the movie. I wanted to see more cameos of other Spider-Verses, but I get it, let's focus on the main story. When he showed up, and I'm like, oh, where's this going? Oh my god, they're going to set this up for the sequel. No, not really. What they did was make it into a joke where he goes back into the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. And they picked the one scene that they made into the meme where he's pointing.
Meme where they're pointing at each other?
So they're just sitting there pointing at each other. And I was just genuinely losing it.
Because it was so unexpected and perfect.
But everybody gets it. It doesn't matter if you read Not everybody, I'm sorry. Most people get it,
if you know what a meme is, you get it.
Yeah, you've seen the Spider-Man. Even if you don't know who Miguel, Spider-Man 2099 is, you just know he's from another universe, and they're both having a point out
of context.
Oh, man, that's so great. I loved it. Yeah, so I'm ready for more. I thought it was a beautiful dedication to
Steve Ditko and Stan Lee right at the end. That was the mid-credits.
That was the one that almost made me tear up too, because the way that it was written.
Because Steve Ditko had passed when they had just finished production on this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they had already were going to do that, and then, of course, they had to add Stan Lee on because he had just passed,
Yeah, and it was something along the lines of, like, thanks for not making us feel alone. Or, like, we're the only ones.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like that. That was a really powerful thing to put at the end.
Now, I'm going to give my final score right now. Because I'm ready.
Okay.
So I give it a 10 out of 10. This is by far my favorite film.
Your favorite Spider-Man film?
Spider-Man film. Favorite animated film of this year as well. And it's been already nominated for a Golden Globe against, of course, the two big Disney juggernauts, Incredibles 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Isle of the Dogs, which Isle of Dogs got mixed reviews critically anyway. I'm hoping
Is it too Wes Anderson?
Yeah. I think that might be a little bit what it is.
Okay.
But I hope this wins. It's already won a ton of Critic Association awards, New York, Detroit, Los Angeles. All of them have already given it a win for Best Animated Feature for this year. And so I'm hoping that this follows through. They win for the Golden Globes. They get a nod for the Oscars, because I would love to see this get a win for the Oscars especially. And if Ralph Breaks the Internet or Incredibles 2 wins, that's it. I'll be like, you know what? Obviously, Disney has them in their pocket. I give up. I'm done watching award shows because those movies were fine. I've seen them both with my daughter because I have a kid, so I go see all that stuff. And, this was so unique in the animation. The story was so tight, and the characterizations were so good. Like, Incredibles 2 had a long, drawn-out middle. Wreck-It Ralph 2 hammered it home, hammered it on your head.
Wreck-It Ralph 2 is up for an Oscar?
Yeah, well, for a Golden Globe right now. They haven't done the Oscar nods yet.
Okay.
They hammered home the idea of the whole let your kid go and be free and don't be that overbearing helicopter parent. Oh, they hit you over the head with it. But this film is what we need, and I think this deserves to win. So that's why I give it 10 out of 10. I hope anyone who votes in those categories is watching. Please vote for this. Okay. What do you give it, Omar?
That was the longest 10 out of 10 I've ever heard. That was
my Golden Globe plug.
Well, you talked me into it then. No, I 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It was a great movie. I had like that little nitpick I have. That's it.
Too minor to even, yeah.
But we'd love to know what you guys thought.
Yes, definitely.
Leave it in the comments down below. Let us know if it did hold up to what we were saying or what you thought it was going to do. Or if you didn't even like it. I love to know why people didn't like it. That's
yes,
one of the
I'd be curious to see if you didn't like it, what was your reasons for it?
Were the visuals too jarring? I don't know. I'd like to know the reasons for that. So, sign us off.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more amazing content from our near mint condition family. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels. Have a great day, everyone, and stay tuned for more.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. For me? That was for you.
Okay, cool.
But no, it really wasn't. And Omar, today we're going to be talking about... Nope. Okay.
No. Hey, everybody. You never let me talk.
You do it first. You do it first.
Okay.
Yeah, see my emblem on my chest?
Yeah, that's what all the guys want to see.
Okay.
Talking about...
Today...
Wait, no, do that again.
Yeah. Spider-Man into the spider...
Oh, come on! Anyway. Sorry.
All right.
What are we doing?